What is going on, everybody? My name is Ron Glista, and welcome to the Music Spectrum Podcast. Got another fantastic guest on here this afternoon, my friend Mike Cruz. Mike, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing fantastic. What's up, Ron? How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. Reason why I want to have Mike on here, I've literally have known Mike since probably elementary school, middle school days, and one of my fondest memories is him and his brother jamming out in the basement of their apartment, and we live in an apartment complex together. And him and his brother jamming out. Mike's playing guitar, his brother's playing drums, jamming out the Guns N' Roses. And I knew Mike was going places the first time I heard him play guitar. But before we get into all the good stuff, man, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
All righty. So yeah, I got influenced in music very, very early. I was originally came from the east side of Youngstown, and when my parents were seeing the way things were going there, they wanted to get us, in a better education system and all that, school system and all that. So we moved to Canfield, and when I'm there, I hear rock and roll for pretty much the first time on this level. And the first couple of things I heard were Crazy Train and Mr. Crowley. The rest is history. From there, I'm like, I begged my parents. I'm like, I need that. I want to get a guitar. I want to start learning how to play it. Just kept going, plugging at them. And finally, Christmas time came around and they surprised me. Got a guitar and amp and just started playing. Took me to a couple lessons and I did not like it. I didn't want to learn Mary Had a Little Lamb. I wanted to learn Mr. Crowley. so I'm like, screw this. I'm not going back. I'm teaching myself. And the rest is history. I've been teaching myself ever since. Now I've been playing for about 32 years. And in the beginning, it was me and my cousin Ricardo. So my cousin,
I'm sorry.
that's all good. So him and I, we'd start playing, and he taught himself how to play drums on pots and pans and phone books. It was insane. He's a natural. Anything he touches turns to gold type of person. But yeah, so in those early days, my early influences were Metallica, Iron Maiden, Pantera, things, and those kind of bands, Ozzy, and so forth and so on. And from there, I just kept moving. I just kept pushing myself to become a better musician. Ended up playing with a whole variety of different types of bands, even like a college party type band, hence JJ's and Varsity Club. But we had some good times then, and played in a funk band. That was pretty fun. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, it's just my journey's been good. I've been in Colorado now for 20 years, and it's been everything I wanted. It took one visit to come out here. I have a Irish sister, Irish twin, whatever they call it. My sister Becky, she's 10 and a half months older than me, so I was a whoops. And being that she had lived here for a short amount of time, when I came out to visit West for the first time, she took me to Red Rocks. Pretty much a month and a half max later, I moved out here. And I'm like, that's where I've always been, and let's just get this going. I was young and dumb enough to do it then, and yeah, it's been great ever since. So
That's cool. So you said you started off, you went to some lessons, you didn't like it, you wanted to be self-taught, you started teaching yourself. How hard was it for you to pick up the guitar yourself versus going to lessons and somebody teaching you?
Well, for me, it was a little more difficult because I'm left-handed. That being said, when I found out, my parents and I talked to the music guy at the Guitar Center 2 over on Main Street or Broadway in Canfield. And so we were talking to him. He's like, you want to learn right-handed because your left hand's naturally stronger and you're left-hand dominant. It's like, so you'll be able to pick up fretting a lot. You'll build your dexterity and strength a lot quicker than most people will. And it's easier to find right-handed guitars than it is left-handed guitars, which is a true fact. Nevertheless, when that happened, I just kept plugging away till I figured it out. And a lot of times I was just doing open strings. And I was like, okay, well, that sounded like it. But really, now that I look back, I'm like, that sounded nothing like it. What the hell was I thinking? But then I learned how to, pick up some things, found out about tablature. Tablature is the cheap method for learning how to read music. And they say, the quickest way you want to make a guitar player stop playing the guitar is put some sheet music in front of them. And it's pretty true. So tabs became my best friend, and I would get books, all the books on how to do this, Guitar Worlds, Metallica, like all these, specific to each band types of books. I had all these tabs, and I would teach myself and just go over in hours and hours and hours a day, sometimes 6, 8 hours a day when I was young. I mean, I had time to do that. You'd see me pop out every once in a while, but majority of the time I was playing on music. So that's kind of how it was. But the whole concept of trying to learn the notes and the actual theory behind it and all that stuff really never came to me. And then I got to a point where I'm like, I got to start learning how to do this so I can, I understand the vocabulary. I just want to learn how to speak the language.
Gotcha.
And that's where that really comes into play. And it really does make a difference. However, I'm still on the learning process of that. So, as they say.
So looking at that, how hard was it to listen to a song and then figure out the right notes or the right chords to hit on your guitar strings to make that match at the beginning?
At the beginning, it was time consuming. It was pretty time consuming at the very beginning. I knew what I wanted to do. I just didn't know the roadmap to execute it. And sometimes it will take me, say, for instance, if I wanted to learn Crazy Train, we'll just throw that one out, shouldn't be talking about that one. If I want to learn Crazy Train, I would get the gist of where the notes need to be. And it would probably take me about, good hour or so to figure that out, at that time. Now I'm at the point where if I hear something by ear, I'll just like, oh, okay, you want to do that. And because my ear's so well trained, I could just do that. I could jump in with many different styles of music and be able to hold my own, because that's my development. That's my training, has been my ear. So I try to protect them these days.
That's impressive though, if you could just listen to something now and know where your fingers need to go with the guitar pick and just play it. I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's like anything, you spend enough time doing it, you're going to become really good at it, and you'll be able to master that particular skill, whether it's a sport or whatever it is. It's just the time you put in is what you get out of it. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So looking back, what was the first song you were able to play front to back while you were learning to play guitar? Do you remember what that song was?
Crazy Train.
Was it?
Yep, it was. And that was the whole entire, this is it. I'm not turning back now. So yeah, once I learned that one, because I mean, it was flash. It was the 80s. The 80s, they had a lot of, they were all about crazy solos and tapping, everything else like that. Everybody was on the coattails of Eddie Van Halen. And here comes this guy, who starts playing with Ozzy Osbourne. And Ozzy at the time was in his transition from being in a band and to try to be a solo artist. Most people weren't succeeding as a solo artist. And especially in this category, they got the inventors of heavy metal, nobody was really expecting much out of him. Then he finds this, this guy who could just do it all, and everything he touches turns to gold. And man, he's influenced just as many people as Eddie has. It's pretty amazing. So that was just, to me, mind blowing. He made the guitar a roller coaster, and I'm just there for the ride. So it was pretty awesome.
Speaking of that guy, his name would be Randy Rhoads, correct?
Correct.
So as you look back at him, I mean, obviously he was younger, you were still younger. What drew you to him initially when you first started hearing the music that he was putting out?
So what initially did it was this guitar solo. He would come out. Hold on one second.
Uh-oh.
He would come out and he would just start this tapping thing again. Just that right there was enough for me to be like, oh, I'm done. You got me. Here's all my money. Whatever.
That's great, man. I like how you just pull out the guitar right there and just pull off that riff, man. That's pretty cool.
Thanks. But yeah, I mean, it totally is. Good stuff.
So because of him, obviously, I'm assuming you became a fan of Ozzy and all of his music. How in depth did you get with Ozzy stuff with Randy still there in his early years?
Oh, the both albums. So Randy did Blizzard of Oz. He also did Diary of a Madman, and they're both celebrated just catalogs for me. For his whole Blizzard of Oz ultimately was the one. And all the songs on there from beginning to end, I mean, I love them all. They're just absolutely incredible, the way they're written, everything else like that. Even to this day, I'll throw on like Ozzy's Tribute, which is fantastic because that's the live album. And on that live album, he really showcases his abilities. They all do. But Randy especially showcases what he can do, how he does it, his execution of it. And it's just, it's amazing. It's even to this day, it's still relative to the music that's being played today. So it was really good. And he's always had, since he had Tony Iommi with Sabbath. Tony Iommi had that bluesy, dark, just punch you in the gut type of tone, you know? Randy had I'm going to show you something and kick your ass at the same time approach. Then he had Jakey Lee, who was probably not the most celebrated of the Ozzy guitar players, but Jakey Lee did some fantastic stuff. Ultimate Sin, Bark at the Moon, those albums right there were phenomenal. And then Zach is in a category of his own. He's just, the guy's insane. And he's another person that I had the opportunity to meet, was just unbelievable. Guy's a monster.
So tell me the story about when you got to meet Zach there.
So Zach, I was down at a hotel in Denver, and this was just last year. And so I see a guy coming off an elevator. He's got a BLS tag. I'm like, BLS? Like, Black Label Society? He's like, yeah, we're in town. We're playing 3 shows. I'm like, what? How did I not know about this? So he's like, I'm going to go meet Zach right now. You want to meet him? I'm like, yeah, sure. So I go over, and here I am, about to meet one of my idols growing up as a musician, right? And he's sitting there drinking his coffee and stuff like that, just in that table. He didn't have any food, so I was like, okay, I'll approach him, kind of like, little schoolgirl feel coming over me, like, oh my God, I want to meet this guy. This is so cool. So yada, yada, I go over, start talking to him. And I'm like, you know what? I was just talking to my wife last night saying, hey, that Bullseye guitar, I really want to get that. And she just looked at me and said, yeah, okay, whatever. And it's kind of funny. And he starts laughing. He's like, here, I got something for you. Gives me one of his guitar picks. He's like, what are you doing tonight? I'm like, nothing. He's like, want to come to the show? I'll put you on my list. So he does. And I go, and the show is phenomenal. Like, he walks right in front of me during the show and just does this whole behind the back solo. Does that for about good Zach Wild minute, which usually lasts about 10. So he's walking through the crowd and everything like that. And it was incredible. And I ran into him the next day. It's like, hey, thanks for the show. The show was unbelievable. Thanks for putting me on your list. You guys are really cool. It's nice to meet, someone that you idolized growing up, to find out they're actually pretty real, instead of, how a lot of fortune and fame type musicians can be. He was the most real person I've ever met besides Dimebag Darrell. And it was really incredible. So he invited me to another show, and I'm like, I can't do it tonight. It's the anniversary with my wife. He's like, nope, you can't do it. So he gives me the bro hug and then goes on his way, but it was pretty cool. Yeah, definitely a good person.
That's cool. I mean, it's nice to be able to meet somebody that you always looked up to, idolized, watch them play guitar, listen and play guitar. It's always nice if you're able to meet somebody like that and they're not a total asshole, that
Absolutely.
they're approachable and they're able to talk to you like a human being versus looking down on you like, get the hell away from me.
Oh yeah, he was 100% as real as it gets, man. It was something else. It was really, really cool. And like, man, that's good stuff. It's really good stuff to see that.
So obviously you listened to Zach while he was playing with Ozzy, and then you mentioned him, with Black Label Society. How much have you continued to follow his musical career as he's been away from Ozzy and Black Label Society and stuff? Have you continued to listen to some of his stuff?
I do listen to some BLS. They got a lot of good stuff, but it just doesn't hit me as much as it does his prior works. That's when I was really diving deep into it. And who knows, I may dive back into it. It's all about how I feel with music at the point in time of my life. And so like, I follow him on Instagram. And if you're on Instagram, I would suggest following Zach Wild, because he's absolutely hilarious. The dude is crazy. He's crazy funny though. He does all kind of stuff and all this comical stuff. And he'll just do clips of him just shredding on the guitar. And when I see that stuff, I always look that up. And yeah, it's just amazing to see how accurate. I mean, he's like, you can't fit a piece of paper between the notes. They're so perfect. He's amazing at what he does. He knows his craft. So
Okay. So you have the Randy Rhodes, the Ozzy, the Zach Wild early off in your career. When you look back when you were younger, learning how to play guitar, um, outside of those two guys, who was somebody that you picked up an ear for their guitar playing and started listening to when you were probably, I don't know, high school age maybe, or right out of high school? Was there that somebody there that, you know what, ooh, I like this. I got to start listening to this and playing this stuff.
Dimebag Darrell, Pantera. So that came about. I'd go over to my cousin's house, Ricardo. Rick Whited, and I would sit there and watch Headbangers Ball. Two really good friends, you know, and we would watch Headbangers Ball on Saturday nights. You know, and it was pretty cool. So I got introduced. I saw video for Cemetery Gates, and that was life changing right there. From that point, I was like, oh my God, who the hell are these guys? And how come I've never heard of them before? It was that point where just, you know, you find that band and they just make so much sense to you musically, and they're at a different level. They're at a different level of anything you've heard before. So that's what it was. When that song with Cemetery Gates, he does those squeals and just gets into that. It's something incredible, man. So that was really awesome. Just that whole those pig squeals, as we call them, you know, those pinch harmonics that just reverberate, they're unbelievable. And he mastered that. So that was really cool. And yeah, and that actually led to a really cool opportunity of me meeting him in Champion, Ohio. So I think I was out playing basketball with my sister, and I got back to the place in Carriage Hill, and all of a sudden Mike Lindsay shows up. He's like, dude, where the hell you been? I'm like, what's going on? He's all anxious, like, we gotta go. Like, did we have an appointment? Were we supposed to be somewhere? Like, what the hell? So he's like, just get in the car. So I get in the car, we fly out. He's going down 11. We're headed towards Champion, or wherever direction it is to get to Champion, Ohio. I'm like, what? Are you going to tell me what's going on? He's like, we're going to go meet Dimebag Darrell. I'm like, what are you talking about? So his brother-in-law at the time was this guy, Gary Z, who worked for like CD 106 or whatever. And they were doing a meet and greet. This is when Pantera's at the height. This is when Vulgar Display just came out. Mm-hmm. And we go to Champion. We go to this Quarterly Music in Champion. And we're there. Next thing you know, we're inside talking with the people that are working there. And they're like, 2 guys didn't show up for work today. We need 2 more people for security. There's a line of people in the strip mall from the front door all the way down the way. You know, and just set up like kind of like the Borden Plaza type thing. And which is this long strip mall for people that aren't familiar with the Ohio area I'm talking about. And meanwhile, there's a news camera lady in the back. We volunteer to be the security guards. News lady and the camera in the back. This limo pulls up to the back. All of a sudden, the door opens up, and obviously he has seen this news lady right there. He follows out with a bottle of Jack Daniels, some Chucks, his camo shorts, and a T-shirt right on his face. She says, "Cut." Yeah, we're not putting that on the news. So it was pretty funny. So next thing you know, we do this whole meet and greet type thing with him, and being number of security guards and all this stuff for him. I mean, I'm like 16, 17 years old at the time. And, you know, I'm like, hey man, do you have any kind of influence or anything any kind of advice for me to get better? He's like, I'll show you a trick. So he gave me a guitar lesson right there and then, just stopped everything he was doing, came over to me, taught me how to flip over the neck, just to show, you know, for show type of trick. But yeah. I'll never forget that I got a lesson off Dimebag Darrell in his prime, which was pretty awesome. So that was
a kick-ass story, man. I like that.
It was unbelievable. And at that time, unfortunately, my cousin and I had played a really bad prank on somebody. And the end result was he was in the hospital in a coma for like quite some time, many weeks. And when that happened, he had a 5% chance of making it, pulling through out of his coma. So it was a very, very scary situation. And nevertheless, I had told Diamond, like, hey, can I get an autograph from you? My cousin's in the hospital. He's never going to believe that I met you. So he's like, here's 5. He gave me 5 autographs and gives a personalized one to my cousin Ricardo. And yeah, it was awesome, man. He's like, tell your cousin I'm pulling for him. I'm thinking about it. I'm praying for him. So it was just, man, just like same as Zach, just real. It was awesome. Very, very cool experience. And being a kid, something else.
Yeah. I don't pin you for the security guard type, by the way.
Yeah, no. Maybe it's the gun show. I got nothing.
Oh, Mikey. Oh man. So that's cool that you got to meet two guys that you idolized, looked up to, guitar players. There's some people in this world that grow up playing guitar that never meet anybody, and you got to meet 2 guys. That's pretty damn cool.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I've met these people, and it's just in the weirdest circumstances ever. Same thing happened, and it's another crazy story like that. But yeah, it happened. My 27th birthday, I come back to Ohio. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame had opened up some years prior to me moving to Colorado. And for my birthday, my father wanted to take me up to Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So I'm checking out this Hendrix exhibit, and I'm just like, wow, this is really cool. The original writings of Purple Haze, right there in front of me, scratched out where he changed a word or whatever. Standing next to me, I look over, and I'm like, holy shit. And it was Joe Satriani standing right next to me. So
Oh, wow.
it was just very weird how these situations happen the way they do sometimes in my life with meeting these people, because it's happened quite a few times. It's pretty neat.
So where does music take you when you start listening to Joe Satriani's music?
It takes me to a place of education. That's the first thing I think about when I'm listening to guys of that caliber, the virtuosos. And like any virtuoso, even from a blues player to a funk player to someone like Satriani, whomever, the first thing I focus on is what they're doing, because that's what I can learn from, and that's the way I've always tried to be as a musician, is learn from the best. Because if I'm going to learn from the best, it's only going to make me better. So that's kind of what I do. Like, I don't listen to, oh, this is a really cool song, when it comes to those type of players. I'm like, okay, what are they doing now? Kind of situation, kind of my mentality on it. So, if you really think about those types of players, like the Satrianis, the Steve Vais, the Eric Johnsons, Ry Cooder, and so forth and so on, a lot of people that you won't see a ton of people at their concerts unless they're musicians, because it's all what the ear translates and what people find appealing for the moment, or for whatever, just, that sense of what is music to them. And for the majority of people out there, I don't know. I mean, this is just my own personal opinion, obviously, but I think a lot of people would rather you see a hell of a lot more people at Pearl Jam than you would at Satriani's show.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So,
well, if I'm correct, Joe Satriani and Santana, they don't sing; they just play guitar. Correct?
Santana does sing. Satriani sings very minimal. He's mainly just guitar, but he does have some songs where he does do some singing on Flying in a Blue Dream. That album right there, I think that came out in 92 or 93, I want to say. I'm not positive. But he did do some singing on it. It's not his strong suit. You know what I mean? But he makes up for everything else right here. I mean?
Yeah. I was listening on Spotify to some of Satriani's stuff before we jumped on, and the first 5 songs on the playlist on Spotify are just him playing a guitar. And me not knowing everything about him would assume that he doesn't sing, he just plays guitar. And the handful of times that I've heard a Santana song, it's Santana with Rob Thomas or Santana with so-and-so. So to me, the average Joe that listens to a Santana song thinks that he just plays guitar and doesn't sing.
Oh man, Santana is the roots for a lot of rock and roll. He's unbelievable. Like my parents were heavy into different styles of music. So growing up in a Puerto Rican family, we had a lot of the original, just original like type of old country type of music. Uh, Bands like Los Condes, Los Panchos, stuff like that. Just very, just man, you don't hear music like that at all today. You won't. And the players, the way they play the guitar, they play what's called a cuatro. And a cuatro has 8 strings, and these guys play like this. Like their fingers are just nonstop all over the place, doing notes and stuff like you see Satriani doing, but they're doing it with their fingers on an acoustic style guitar. But Santana back in the day, man, the stuff he used to write was absolutely incredible. And a lot of people don't know it, but he didn't originally write Black Magic Woman. It was Fleetwood Mac that wrote it. And that's pretty interesting because I, for my whole entire life, thought he originally wrote Black Magic Woman, not even knowing that Fleetwood Mac did. And the way Fleetwood Mac wrote it is it's very similar to a style that you would hear of a song you would hear like in Pulp Fiction or Reservoir Dogs. It's got almost that surfer type vibe per se, but yeah, it's definitely different. Very good stuff though.
Yeah, that what was it, weekend or 2 weekends ago, you and I were sharing music back and forth either through Facebook or text messages, and you were sharing some early, like very early Fleetwood Mac stuff with me that
Yeah.
I never heard of before, and it sounds nothing like what they put out in the 80s at all.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it's night and day. It's night and day. Those are the Peter Green days. Peter Green he was a blues player. He just passed away, I think, this past year.
Yeah.
He was a legend at what he did. And the sound was it was amazing. They had a lot of that Mississippi Delta type feel in a lot of their blues, which I didn't show you any of that stuff. I didn't send that to you, but I'll have to. But yeah, like the songs I did send you, it's almost like the one song, he sounds like a crooner. That song, I Need Your Love So Bad, it's just like, he's like, this is Fleetwood Mac? There's no way in a million years I would have thought this was Fleetwood. That's
Yeah.
crazy. But yeah, freaking awesome stuff, man. There is a lot of good stuff out there.
If you don't follow the Music Spectrum page on Facebook, and if you are not friends with Mike on Facebook or follow him on Instagram, what we've tried to do is the last couple Saturdays, it's the Share the Music Saturday or New Music Saturday, whatever. We try to share some with each other about, a new band or an old tune that maybe you forgot about or nobody hasn't heard of in forever, and just to try to spread the love with music. And that's what Mike and I have tried to rekindle here, because we haven't seen each other in years, but it's nice that music is kind of bringing us around full circle, and we're communicating back and forth, sharing some music out there in the social media world.
Isn't that the most beautiful thing about it though? Is that it doesn't matter like how much time has passed, music can take you right back to that same place, the same feel, the same smells, all that stuff. Everything just kind of just puts you right back and makes you time travel. That's the beautiful thing about it. And it can bring two people that would have completely opposing views, and to these days, Democrats and Republicans, in harmony. you know?
Yep. Well, it's like you said, every time I hear a Guns N' Roses song, I go right back to the basement with you and Ricardo playing. Every single time. It'll probably be that way till the day I die. Every time I hear Guns N' Roses, I see you jamming out in 7th, 8th grade playing that guitar, man. It's going to do it every time, I guarantee it.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, I'll never forget that. It's good stuff.
So you mentioned going to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with your dad not too long ago, and you were looking at the exhibit for Jimi Hendrix.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, he's a left-handed guitar player. You're a left-handed guitar player. How much of a musical influence did he have on your musical career, through the years?
Well, to correct you, I'm actually a right-handed guitar player. Predominantly, I'm left-handed, but I play right.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Yeah, because I've always used. Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, so because of that, I've actually become ambidextrous over the years, and a lot of things I do. But Jimi Hendrix, he's obviously probably the most influential guitar player in history. And the things that he's done over the years, and just obviously during his time, was astounding. Nobody was doing anything relatively close to the things he was doing on a guitar. He had actually been a part of the Isley Brothers, and they're like, dude, you're too wild for us. Jimi Hendrix went through a whole like just a stint of life where he was just trying to fit in with this band or this band or this band, and nothing ever clicked till he ended up, I believe in England, he met Noel Redding and Mitch Mitchell. And that's became the Jimi Hendrix Experience. And what he was doing then, I mean, it's very difficult to be able to play and sing, but to be able to play and sing the way he does, it was astounding, you know. And he went, I think I'm not, don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure that he's one of the reasons there's a Marshall stack. So he wanted an amplifier that was bigger and better than anything out there. And that's when James Marshall came up with the 4x12 cabinet, or whatever Jimmy was using at that particular time, put a head on it and said, all right, let him, you know, blow this towards them and see how they react, you know. And yeah, he was incredible, incredibly influential guitar player. You know, till to this day, to try and play some of his stuff, and it's difficult. It's very difficult to play.
I was just going to say, do you have a favorite song of his that you like to play, or do you have a favorite song that you like to listen to, or is there a favorite riff that you like of his, listening to his stuff?
Probably this one. Let's see.
Here we go, man.
Let's see. This is a lot of fun. Yeah, Little Wing. Little Wing is phenomenal. Like, he's just like, okay, I'm gonna write this, and it's just magic. It just makes sense to him. So that was pretty amazing about him. He's another one of those players who, there's a few players out there that taught themselves, and because they didn't learn the ABCs, they were able to have total freedom of you know, their expression. And not saying that not learning the ABCs is the way to do it. No, learning the ABCs gives you even more freedom because then you have more power. But the way they did it in their own right was just, it was incredible, because there's nobody that sounds like them. You know, they made the instrument their own. I think Eddie Van Halen might have been one of those too. I don't know. But I know Stevie Ray Vaughan was. These guys, yeah. Different level.
That was impressive right there too, by the way. I mean, it's just because I know you from high school, man. It just impresses me every time somebody I know can pull up guitar and play like that. And some of the stuff that you're playing now, or some of the stuff that you post on your Facebook page, it's not easy stuff.
No, it's not. It's not. And that's why I chase the best. So that I can do stuff like that.
You want to be the best, you got to chase the best, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So looking at some of your other influences I have on your list here, we can go whichever way you want, but David Gilmour or Iron Maiden, who do you want to talk about?
Gilmour.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gilmour was, I think a lot of when I do a lot of my playing, when I try and play Satriani, when I try and play Metallica, or I try and play whomever, I have to think about what I'm trying to do with them, with their style of music, and try and mimic or make their style my own the best I possibly can. With Gilmour, he just makes sense to my playing. Does that make sense?
Yes,
so it definitely, there's a home factor when I play Pink Floyd. Pink Floyd's always, like, my brother highly influenced Floyd on me. He was going to Ohio State at the time. This was like 91, 92, and or 92, because 92. So so when I first heard The Wall in its entirety, it's because him and I used to share a bedroom, and he would put that thing on his tape player, and I'm just like, really, dude? So I just fall asleep to it. You know. And then finally, over so many years of this happening, just became a band that I really connected with on such a level. And no, Gilmore, his writing was really phenomenal. How he even his lyrics, how he puts words together, were so well done. And I don't get me wrong, Roger Waters, give him the credit for Wall, but Gilmore did a lot of other things down the line that were just incredible. His lyrical ability, his writing ability, his phrasings, the way he attacked the guitar and brought the emotions out of the guitar, and just made that psychedelic rock and roll. He just made it his own. It was really amazing. For me, it connected really well.
After you were able to finally listen to The Wall and appreciate it, did that make you want to deep dive into some of their other music?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So after The Wall, I got involved, and then Wish You Were Here album, just Shine On You Crazy Diamonds. I can listen to that song over and over again at any time of the day. It's one of those songs, it doesn't matter when it's on, what I'm doing. I could be, I could be working out, I could be doing the lawn, I could be doing whatever it is. And that song comes on, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm listening to this whole thing. Let me start from the beginning. So, and it's a great composition. That song, though, interesting enough, when that was written, there was a guy that came into the studio. Syd Barrett was long gone. He had been dealing with his whole, schizophrenia and all that, and they hadn't seen him in some years, to my knowledge, right? And they're in the studio working on that song in particular, which is written about Syd Barrett. When they were in the studio writing that, this guy shows up, shaved head, shaved eyebrows, very overweight, and wearing like a white suit, and nobody knew who the hell he was. So they're like, okay, whatever, blah, blah, he's this guy, nobody knew who he was. He had changed his physical appearance so much, it was Syd Barrett. No one knew it. And the day that David Gilmour is supposed to be laying down the solos for that song, Shine On You Crazy Diamond, about him, he's there and shows up. Afterwards, he just walks out. That was it. Didn't say, guys, good to see you, or anything else like that. Just sat there, I guess, inspired the whole writing and took off. So, pretty amazing. Only Floyd. But like metal's a really good one. The older albums are very interesting, super psychedelic, super just, man, you got to be in a different state of mind to really connect with a lot of those things. Can't say I have, can't say I haven't.
I would agree with you. You definitely have to have a taste for Pink Floyd music to listen to them. I mean, I know all the popular songs because of them playing on the radio and things like that, but off of the main, core group of popular songs, I couldn't tell you anything about Pink Floyd except, like you said, the psychedelic stuff, and you really have to be into them and wanting to listen to them to be able to appreciate their music.
Yeah. I got Roger Waters actually came around and did the Wall tour. This was probably about, I can't remember how many years ago. This wasn't very long ago though. And they had booked a show at the Pepsi Center here in Denver. I went to that show, took my wife. She's like, I don't know any Pink Floyd. I'm like, oh yeah, you do. You know a lot more Pink Floyd than you even know. So we get to the show, and they did the whole entire thing where they built the wall. They literally built a wall in the Pepsi Center. There was a point in the show where, in this one, Brick in the Wall, when they're doing that song, where the helicopter's going around. So they got speakers set up in different parameters all around the Pepsi Center. And all you see is this spotlight. The lights were all off. It looked like there was a helicopter flying around. It looked like there was a helicopter flying around the Pepsi Center because the way they choreographed everything so perfectly. To the point after one of the songs, they literally crashed a plane in the Pepsi Center behind the wall. It was incredible. Like
wow.
The theatrics, the amount of stage setup they had to do just for this particular show was insane. There was at least 8 semi-trailers in the back, which have been all for the production. It was incredible. Most amazing show I've ever seen.
Really?
And, yeah. And I've seen a lot of Pantera shows too. So.
So how do you go from Pink Floyd to getting into a more, in my opinion, a more heavier band like Iron Maiden?
Iron Maiden, their harmonies. Um, Iron Maiden were very good storytellers. They talk a lot about history. If you listen to their songs, majority of their songs about things that have happened throughout time. Um, and it's very interesting how they put their take on it. One song in particular, Hallowed Be Thy Name. It's about a guy who's getting ready to go on his last day on this earth before he gets hung, whether he's a criminal or whatever it was. But it talks about his trip to the gallows pole. And Hallowed Be Thy Name is a freaking amazing story. But the whole way they make one song and they paint a picture with everything, from the bass, the drums, the guitars, the lyrics, how it's sung, everything, the melody. It's so well done that still to this day, they're one of the most outstanding bands, heavy metal bands, successful heavy metal bands of all time. Because no matter where they play, they sell out. These guys got their own 747 that they fly around. That's, not many bands can have their own 747.
No. Very, very, very few.
Yeah, so they paved the road very, very well for themselves, and their fan loyalty it's insane. They're really good. Really good is an understatement. But no, I've always listened to them. Ricardo Sister is the one that introduced me to Iron Maiden, and the rest is history from their albums. Number of the Beast, actually, with Run to the Hills. That was fantastic. And you got songs like Wasted Years, Aces High, The Trooper. The whole Live After Death album was phenomenal. Some of their greatest hits, more or less all in one concert. So, yeah.
Have you had opportunity to see Iron Maiden in concert?
Have not, unfortunately.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm not going to make that mistake. If these concerts start opening up again, I need that. I need to get out and get back to Red Rocks, get down to the Fillmore, get to these different places and start seeing shows again, or start playing shows for that matter. But as we all do, just to get out there. But no, I've had a couple missed opportunities with seeing bands that I'm like, oh, they'll be around again. I'll catch them next time, type of thing. Happened with BB King at Red Rocks. Happened with Prince at the Fillmore. Happened with Beastie Boys. Shooting myself in the foot every time. It's like, I gotta stop doing this.
I had the opportunity to see the Beastie Boys one time, and they did a Rock the Vote thing, and they came down to the Cabelli Center in Youngstown here. And that's when my wife Jennifer and we just started dating. And we went down there with my cousin, and they didn't play a full-on show because it was like Sheryl Crow was there and 2 or 3 other opening artists were there. It was just like a people come and rock the vote, get out and vote for the presidency, whenever that was that year. And they played maybe 30 minutes. But in that 30 minutes, they played every single popular song that you can think of, because they just intertwined into one song, into the other. And I was completely blown away in a 30-minute concert just for them.
See, yeah, exactly. They were amazing at their craft, and that's a very smart way to do it. And everybody would be impacted, and everybody would know what they were up to. Crazy thing happened like that. I went to see Dave Matthews at Dick's Sporting Good Park, which is a huge soccer field. I mean, you fit like 26,000 people in this place, probably more. I don't know.
Okay.
But their opener was Snoop Dogg. Like, who would ever put those two in the same venue, or let alone the same bill? And I think we're like, this is at the transition point for Snoop Dogg, where it's like, oh, he's now Snoop Lion. And like, okay, is he going to do reggae stuff, or is he going to be doing his old school stuff? Like, nobody knew what to expect. And all of a sudden, Snoop gets up there. He's the opener, and he does Doggy Style in its entirety from beginning to end. And the place went ballistic. It was the coolest thing ever. And then Dave got on stage, and everybody was like, well, I guess we can go home now. Well, I love Dave Matthews, but Snoop Dogg really showed him up that day. It was pretty incredible.
I was going to say, and that's hard to do, because Dave Matthews, he's got a catalog of music and a big fan base too,
Huge. He's unbelievable. Yeah.
So you said that you had an interesting story about one of the guys from the Beastie Boys, and we talked briefly before we jumped on. Do you want to share that story there?
Yeah, sure. But this is a long time ago, when probably about 2007, 2008, somewhere around there. And I go to Guitar Center. This is pre-kids, so I had time to do all these things I wanted to do after I was done with work. I go to Guitar Center and I'm gawking at all the high-end guitars in the high-end room. And in the high-end room, you got these really expensive guitars, some behind glass, some not, and then it's encased by glass. So they got really big amps too, so you can the really high-end amps. And I'm jamming out, and this guy, this tall white lanky guy, comes in. He's got like a Adidas type jumpsuit type thing going on, and he starts just kind of like bobbing his head a little bit, and then he starts freestyling over the stuff I'm playing. And I was playing, I was doing stuff like this. Just like kind of funky rock, type stuff, just having fun. And he sits next to me and starts freestyling. And I'm like, okay, who the hell is this guy? I started listening to him, and I'm like, oh wow, who is this guy? Immediately my point of view on this guy changed immediately, because he's so incredible at just freestyling. So I'm listening to this guy freestyle, and we jammed in there for probably a good 40 minutes or so. And it was incredible, blew me away. And I'm pretty talkative. I didn't say much at all, because I was just in awe about how off the wall this guy was, the way his mannerisms, the way he talked, the way he rapped, the way he did everything he was doing there. I had never met anybody like him before. So it was really interesting. And he's like, man, he starts talking about, fuck the rock and roll, fuck the fame, all this stuff like that. I want to get back to doing stuff that's real like this. And he starts talking about just being a musician and, just connecting with people that you normally wouldn't connect with, and back to the roots, more or less. And he talks about how his age, how old he's going to be and all this stuff like that year. So we're talking and all this stuff. And he's like, what's your name? I'm like, my name's Cruz. He's like, Mike D, nice to meet you. And I'm just like, not connecting. I'm putting the pieces of the puzzle together. So I tell you, Brian, it was insane. So I'm like, okay, all right, nice to meet you, dude. He goes on his way. And anyway, before he did that, he gave me a business card for a girl named Cresta. And she was a bartender at a place that he would frequent when he comes into town. So he, yada, yada, gives me her card and everything. And I'm driving home. This is after everything has already happened. And it dawned on me. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like literally almost driving off the road, because I just realized who I was jamming with. And I couldn't believe it. I was freaking out. Get back, jump on the internet, check out his birthday. Sure enough, same exact thing. The guy was about to be 42 years old and all this stuff. And it was just really crazy. I call this girl, and she's like, I tell her, I'm like, you don't know me. And this guy says his name's Mike D, gave me your card. He was like, would that happen to be the same Michael Diamond from Beastie Boys? Like, how do you know him? And she's like, funny you ask, because one of my coworkers, I was talking to him one day, and he said, do you know who you were just talking to? And she said, no. It's like, that's Mike D from Beastie Boys. And she's like, huh? She didn't put two and two together either, type of thing. Well, it turns out, yeah, so we had an encounter, and I was just did some freestyle stuff with the total right place, right time situation again. And it worked out really well. It was a lot of fun. I'll never forget that. It was crazy.
You are one lucky son of a bitch, man. All the stories so far that we've talked about here in less than an hour of meeting all these musicians and stuff in your lifetime, man, that would never happen to me. I can tell you that right now. And that's just pretty cool that you're able to meet these people, and I know that you have one, if not two other stories about famous musicians and people that you got to play with and do different things with. You want to elaborate on either one of those stories real quick?
Let's see. Played with 30 Seconds to Mars. That was pretty amazing. So that came about. I was sitting at home, just noodling, doing my thing, whatever. And a friend of mine, who I've known since I pretty much moved to Colorado, he's a musician also. He was a part of Clear Channel Radio, 93.3, whatever. And there's a girl, Jennifer Bailey. So Jennifer Bailey, she was in charge of this whole contest situation that 30 Seconds to Mars would do when they come into town, different towns. And what that entailed was if you're a 12th caller, 12th texter, whatever it may be, however it's situated, you get the opportunity of being with the band on stage during a performance, no matter what city, whatever city that they're in. And I get the call from my buddy Adam, and really good dude, calls me up and he's like, hey, have you ever heard This Is War by 30 Seconds to Mars? I'm like, no. He's like, go check it out, see if you can learn it. And call me back when you're done. I'm like, okay. So I went ahead and did that. Called him back about 10 minutes later. I'm like, hey, what's going on? I learned it. This is War. That's a pretty cool song. What's up? He's like, you're going to be playing a sold out show with the band tomorrow night at the Fillmore. And I was like, come again? I'm like, wait, are you serious? He's like, yeah. He's like, I'm in a pinch, and Bailey called me and asked me if I knew any guitar players. And I said, I know the guitar player. So here you go. You're welcome. So it was incredible. So I tell my wife, and I'm like, you're never going to guess what just happened. Adam called me and I told her what was going on. She's like, are you kidding? I mean, it was insane. One of her friends who she hadn't seen in over 10 years plus was coming in the next day, the day of the show, to spend some days with us, a few days, and so they can catch up, yada yada. And she asked my wife, what are we going to be doing while I'm in town? She's like, well, funny, do you know the band 30 Seconds to Mars? And she's like, yeah, it's my favorite band of all time. She's like, well, my husband's going to be playing with them tomorrow night at the Fillmore. If you want to go, we got tickets. So it was a cool experience walking into a venue like the Fillmore, which has, I mean, it's really, in my eyes, a legendary venue in Denver. Anybody and everybody's pretty much played there. And I walk in and you just see a stage set up, and there's no one else in the venue, just the workers doing whatever they got to do to prep for that evening. And there's a line of people outside. So I meet a guy from Capitol Records. He introduces me to the band, gives me the 411 on what's going to be going down, how it's going to be running, all this stuff. And I go and meet Tomo, the guitar player. After I met Jared Leto and Shannon, and I forget the bass player's name. God forget. Anyway, Matt. His name is Matt. And after I met them, so I go sit with Tomo in a room, and we're going over the song. And Tony's taking pictures, doing all this cool stuff. The guy from Capitol Records. And then they meet the guitar tech, because what they typically do is in each city they go to, they will go ahead and just turn that person down, whoever won the contest, so they can act like they know what they're doing. And so that was explained to me from the guitar tech. Tony's like, no, you better turn him up. He knows how to play. So I'm like, okay, this is nice. So here I am, 30 Seconds to Mars, on stage. Jared Leto brings me up to the front. He's like, hey, Denver, we got a hometown hero for you. And then we get into the song, and it was just fantastic. The rest is history. I got some cool photos of like the whole entire place just sold out. And it was a really great experience. So yeah.
That's cool. How big of a rush was that for you to look out into that big of an audience and be up on stage and they're listening to you?
It felt home.
Really?
Yeah. No nerves kicked in. I was so happy to be there. I was just like, hell yeah, let's just do this. Like it was an invigorating feeling that you can't explain to somebody unless they've been a part of that type of a situation. Playing on stage is not like going to a concert. It's you're looking at from the other set of eyes. You're the one that they're there to see. And every time I've been on stage, whether it's playing in front of 5 people or playing in front of a couple thousand, it's that feeling every time. It's like, I got to give them my best. I got to do what I do. And I'm going to have the best time doing it. And hopefully they feel something from what I got to give. So it felt like home. It was awesome.
That's true passion for music right there, man.
Yeah. Thank God I don't get the jitters.
So we're going to be wrapping things up here in a few minutes, but before we do, I know that you've had the opportunity to start up something new in your music career. Do you want to elaborate a little bit about what's going on with you right now and in your music career right now?
Yeah. So I hadn't been playing with a crew for some time. I've been doing some songwriting with various people across the country, from Seattle to New York to San Francisco and whatnot, and we'll do some co-writing, and I've met some really great people along the way. So I've been doing that, but now I finally solidified myself with the crew. Got 3 other guys. Theo plays drums. We got Eric on bass, and we got Chris. He plays. He's a singer as well as does rhythm guitars. And we just all kind of came about through this pandemic. Theo had put up an ad on Craigslist, and I was just surfing for something else. And all of a sudden, I see this drummer posting something, and I'm like, "Hey, man, let me check it out. Let me see. You know, I got something to give. Let's see what you got." And type of situation. I'm like, I want to be with a intermediate to an advanced band. And he's like, "Well, you're probably not going to want to go with us. We're more intermediate." And I'm like, "I don't care. Let's just do it." So I met him and Eric. They're the founders of the band Die Like Bothans, which I'm lead guitar player for. And yeah, the chemistry was really good right off the get. And it's one of those things you could jam with 1,000 musicians and make sense with 5 of them when it comes to creative process. And we started creating right away. It was really good. So that's kind of come around. And then Chris came along a few weeks later. We auditioned a couple other singers. They didn't quite work out so well. They had their issues. And we don't need drama. You know, we're just trying to keep it low, just have a good time doing what we do. And as long as everybody respects each other's time, everybody's got families and stuff like that. So we have been in the studio doing some recording. We're doing some covers. We're doing a lot of working on original music. And we're actually got our first show coming up the 24th at the venue in Denver. So it's gonna be really good to get out there again and just to be on that stage again. Really looking forward to it. But the band is called Die Like Bothans. And how we came up with that name was through the bass player. He's an IT guy. So he's also really into like Star Wars and stuff like that. So you get people that know the backlog. I don't know the backlog. I love Star Wars, grew up with them, but I don't know a lot about the individual stories that stem to make this whole thing. The Bothans, I guess, sacrificed their whole entire existence to steal the plans for the Death Star. So that's where Die Like Bothans came for our band. I'm like, "Ooh, that's pretty cool. I like that." So yeah, and it's been great ever since. We've been together for a few months, and yeah, things are going really well. So
That's really cool. And I even have, I don't know if you could see this or not.
Go back a little bit.
You can't see it because I got this background filter on here, but I got a little logo that you sent me.
Yeah.
On a piece of paper, because I got some guitar pics from you as well of the band, and a little note here from you. I do appreciate you sending me out those guitar pics, man. They're pretty cool.
Good. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I thought it'd be a little cheesy and like sign one of them for you.
Hey, it's all right. It's literally on the wall right here above my laptop. So every time I'm back here doing a podcast or playing with music, you know, I got the guitar pics right up here, and I got the picture, or the signature, the autograph, all your writing you got on the piece of paper. So I'm always looking at that. I like the logo. That's pretty cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I was trying to come up with
that, or
yeah, I did. Yeah, I designed it. So trying to come up with something that was along that line of what they look like, but make it our own type situation. Turns out somebody pointed out, "Hey, it looks like 2 faces looking at each other." I'm like, "Wow, didn't even realize that. That was accident." So yeah, it worked out well. But yeah, to have people check it out, Die Like Bothans page on Facebook, and give us a like. Check out some of what we're doing. It's a lot of fun. So
absolutely. Well, Mikey, I appreciate your time, man. Nice jot down memory lane for me. I'm sure for you as well. A lot of good stories. There's even some artists and bands we didn't get into, some other stories we didn't get into. But you know what? You know, sometime down the road, I'd love to have you back on. Maybe even bring some of the band members on, or you know, if they're brave enough like you, maybe they'll jump on with me solo, and we could just dive into them as well. How's that sound?
Oh, they'd love it. They're fun guys. I think you'll like them a lot.
Cool. Well, like I said, if you don't know Die Like Bothans, check them out on Facebook. If you're not friends with Mike Cruz on Facebook, go find him. Look for my friend's page on Facebook. Go find him. He's always posting great afternoon or evening riffs where he's just jamming out the music. And, you know, I find myself plenty of times where I'm scrolling through Facebook and you're going live playing something. I'll put on my Bluetooth speaker and listen to you and just keep scrolling because what you're playing on there is phenomenal, man. Keep it up.
Thanks, brother. I really appreciate it. Good to see you.
Yeah, you
Glad this
too.
worked out.
Man, I appreciate seeing you. Thanks for coming on. Once again, my name is Ron Glist. I want to thank you guys for listening to the Music Spectrum podcast this afternoon with my friend Mike Cruz. Check me out on Facebook. Check Dialect Bothans out on Facebook. Also, my podcasts are available on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and now I am on iHeartRadio. So check those out. Make sure you share this because I will upload this onto YouTube and to Facebook here pretty soon. Mike, good seeing you again. Thanks for joining me. All right, you guys have a good night. Thank you.